70th edition of the Spa 24 Hours is getting underway. It is time, as the circuit is just complete of single-seater action, for the pre-qualifying session for the Total 24 Hours of Spa. We've had the free practice session already today. We've also had the bronze test earlier on in the week. But now things start to get serious for the teams on what is a very busy day, because after free practice and this pre-qualifying session, still to come tonight, there is qualifying and there is night practice as well. So woe betide the team with a problem. We've already had a Mercedes from Black Falcon damaged and the team hard at work. Otherwise, it is going to miss out on a huge amount of track time. Welcome to what is going to be, as ever, a fascinating race. A wonderful weekend of GT action starts right here. David Addison and John Watson trackside. We've had very high temperatures for the bulk of the day, but in the last, couple of hours, John, the Spa weather has decided to just play the odd trick or two. We've had quite a bit of heavy rain, and it's now overcast once again as the teams get ready for action.
Well, this is the big one, and there you can see ambient and track temperatures way down on what they were when I arrived at the track. Well, some 5 or 6 hours ago now, 24 Celsius, 27 track temperature. The big one, 7 kilometers of rolling Ardennes forests, fields, hills, 19 turns, some of them legendary in their own lifetime as well as in anybody's lifetime. And with this changeable weather, these intermittent rainstorms that have just been coming in and out over the last hour, well, you can get caught out ever so easy. And remember, this racetrack has been baked with burning sun, and now putting moisture onto the top of it. What a recipe for excitement, not for the drivers and the competitors, but for us, the viewers and the commentators. Tricky conditions for everybody, and just being cautious and looking ahead, not looking just precisely where you are on this 7 kilometer racetrack. For example, here looking down, Bruxelles, you can see all the way across the valley to the other side, climbing up through Blancpain. You need to keep your weather eye out, because what you see there is dark cloud. What you might see coming out of the source, something entirely different.
And so this is a look at the bus stop, which brings you, of course, to the end of a flying lap. And the championships, plural, because we have, of course, the Blancpain GT Endurance overall standings to consider. We've also got the Blancpain GT Series, and don't forget, the Total 24 Hours of Spa is part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. Dries Van Thor, Alex Riveras and Christopher Mies, who won at Monza, are the leaders of the Endurance Cup, ahead of Marco Seefried, Christian Klein and Albert Costa, who won at Paul Ricard, and they in turn are ahead of Adam Christodoulou. Get well soon, Adam, after his fiery moment here a week ago in British GT. He's not racing this weekend, and we wish Adam well. He and Raffaele Marciello tied third. 3 endurance races, 3 different winning teams and different brands. Audi, Aston Martin I should say, and then Lexus in that absolute thriller at Paul Ricard. And it means that the championship is still absolutely wide open, and it means as well that drivers are perhaps in some cases a little further down the order than they would have expected because of one bad result out of the 3. But here, of course, there are points at 6 and at 12 as well as the 24-hour marks.
Well, if you think back to the early part of June, we had a 6-hour tease of what we're going to see here over the 24 hours. And those 6 hours of Paul Ricard were the most intense, the most competitive, the most exciting 6-hour endurance race I've ever seen. And if we get a potent of that here this weekend, what a magic weekend it will turn out.
Well, the weather is going to play a huge part in this. Just to go back to championships for a moment, we've talked about the endurance. Now, this is how, if you take endurance and sprint together, things look. Alex Riveras and Christopher Mies jointly ahead of Dries Van Thor. Then you've got Raffaele Marciello, who has different co-drivers for different championships. Calvin van der Linde and Stijn Schothorst come next, ahead of Michael Meadows, then Christian Engelhardt, Mirko Bortolotti, reigning champ Stuart Leonard, ex-Grand Prix racers Will Stevens and Christian Klein come next. Looking down then onto, there you can see some of the buildings out on the far side of the circuit. That is the top of the hospitality suites overlooking the endurance pits and down towards Eau Rouge. Everywhere you look at Spa, there is something to pick out. It is a fabulous circuit, and how on earth all of this gets crammed in for the purposes of this weekend is something of a mystery, John, because you've got so many teams as the green flag is shown and the session goes live, so many teams for Blancpain itself, never mind the support races, never mind all the hospitality structures, the catering, the trade suppliers. I mean, everywhere you look, there seems to be a Pirelli tyre because they're supporting a number of categories, so many teams, and of course here they've got to be on their toes with the requisite number of slick as well as wet weather tyres.
Yeah, just catching there a very, very brief glimpse of the Kaus team, 75 Bernard, and we've got El Bamber, Tino Bernard, the owner of that team, And Laurens van Voort, of course, synonymous with Spa 24, synonymous with Audi, but now, of course, a fully signed up member of the Porsche factory Porsche team. So that's a team that will be, in my view, certainly one to keep an eye on, because such a competitive driver lineup and such a competitive package to go with that.
You also caught a glimpse, there it is in the background, of number 911, 911. It's the Manthey racing Porsche. Now, Manthey won the Nürburgring 24 hours. It operated the car under Porsche's badge that won its class at Le Mans. As far as we can work out, no team has ever won Le Mans, Nürburgring and Spa 24 in the same year. We might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but that is something that Manthey and Porsche is after. Very
much so. The fact that these two privately entered but factory backed in every sense. Certainly the Manthey car, Fred Makowiecki, Romain Dumas, Dirk Werner who took me around, Paul Ricard in the Turbo S, which is quick enough for me. But certainly the two you might call them factory Porsches, very, very strong factory driver lineups, albeit under the banner of being private teams.
Yeah. Manthey Racing, Olaf Manthey, very little to do with it these days. I think he's got about an 8% stake in the team, but it's private investors and Porsche money, and counts here very much as one of the top teams. But pick a winner, well, it's almost impossible. You take an entry list and you put a pin in it. It's so competitive, which is one of the beauties of the Blancpain GT Series. There goes the Team Parker Racing Bentley. Of course, we've got the car still pouring out onto the circuit, still to go. And this hour of pre-qualifying is going to be fascinating as drivers cycle through, and for many it's a case of getting the track time in.
Well, they're getting 3 drivers, in some cases 4 drivers. You could see the wipers already on the climb back up out of the Paul Frere curb up through Blanchemont. So waved green flag indicating the track is clear. Wipers working metronomically and rather attractively in that sort of very rhythmic, almost Brazilian sort of swing that you see. Well, what am I talking about?
It's early in the weekend.
It's only the first 5 minutes.
Exactly.
That's for the end of the race when you're knackered.
When your whimsy comes into its own, yes, there's a long way to go. Like a Brazilian samba, the metronomic wipers, I think John was trying to get to. Jack Manchester, Jules Kowiak, Fabio Schiller and Nico Bastian's car you're looking at that goes on to a flying lap, and it is Nico Bastian, who's been a winner in the Asian Series this year. He's the man behind the wheel of it. But the fact that the wipers are on is interesting, because it proves that there's still a little bit of damp out there, and as the drivers are trying to get themselves dialed in, there's more rubber down, but equally the rain will have washed some of that away, and it's been raining for a reasonable period of time. It's a lot more overcast and actually a bit more pleasant now than it has been for much of the day, because at lunchtime it was searing heat and barely a breath of wind. It was pretty impressive.
It was 34.5 Celsius, and our team gear, which of course is in very fashionable colour of black is the new black, it was like adding another 10 Celsius to our body temperature. But interestingly, and more importantly, when we had that free practice session earlier today, fastest overall was Kelvin van der Linde, the 29 Audi, monoplast by Land Motorsport. That's a mouthful. In 2 minutes, 20.868. That's the benchmark time that we're looking at right now. Currently, the Mercedes Nico Bastian, fastest overall in Sector 1, because he's the first car to go through that first sector at race speed. So we expect to see a time from the number 90 Mercedes-Benz as being, if you like, a benchmark time for what will be for the 55 minutes of this session. Oh, whoa.
You heard the squeal.
That just goes to show there are little parts of the racetrack that are not as dry as other little parts. You can actually see the difference in colour in the tarmac as they come down to the bottom of the circuit.
But that point you make, you can see the difference in the colour. Imagine doing this at night. You can't see it. You've got no chance until you come across the slippery bit.
Actually, it's easier to see the damp bits in the night time than it is for us to identify the cars on screen at night time. So actually, while it's difficult to see where the track is damp or wet or dry, but the amount of flare come off the headlights in these cars is so powerful now. All the headlights, they just completely flare out the camera lens. Almost the poor cameraman, they get lasered in the eye with the strength of these headlights.
Well, Nico Bastian, despite all the arm twirling, it's been a spectacular lap. He's going to offer up the benchmark time. As John was saying in the dry earlier on, the Van der Linde Audi did a 220.8. Well, that's a 222, bettered by Fred Makowiecki there. Look in the background in the bright yellow highlighter pen, masquerading as a Porsche. Fred Mako has just done a 2 minutes 20.737, which is quicker than they did in the bone dry earlier on.
Correct. And Fred Makowiecki, who will almost certainly have a smile on his face, he always has. There we go, the smiling Fred. Anyway, indication as to where Porsche are. Remember, this is not rear engine, this is the engine hanging out behind the rear wheels. So in certain parts of the track, that will give the Porsche maybe an additional little bit of gain in traction. But with track conditions, and we saw the 90 Mercedes getting caught out, just particularly some of the bottom that was down at coming into Stavolo. Fred McAvee happy to use the curbs. Confident, that's just confident, the capital, in my case, K.
Because you can't speak English or French.
So, yes. I was told by an eminent Le Mans winner.
Indeed. Factor this into the weekend.
But he got caught out as well.
He did.
Into Brussels.
Yeah.
So simple. You can't really tell when it's a little fine sheen on the racetrack.
Or off the racetrack there.
Or off the racetrack. So down through, they call it Speaker's Corner for no particular reason.
The reason being, I'll tell you the reason.
We've been through this last year.
Yeah, over on the other old pits, the other commentary box, before everything was moved to where we are now on the Formula One pits, the only other part of the circuit you could see was that in the distance was that corner. And the circuit commentators, the circuit speaker, could refer to what was going on there. And as it had no name, it kind of became dubbed as Speaker's Corner. That's about the only real explanation. But it now does appear on circuit maps, so it's kind of become the official name. The Porsche, the team was telling me earlier on, was designed for a Michelin tyre. Of course, it has to run on a Pirelli for this series, for this event. And it works better on that tyre when it's cooler. So nighttime and or rain, good for Porsche. Searing hot temperatures, not so good.
The searing hot temperature that we had at the circuit around about 1:30, 2 o'clock this afternoon, I think would be very tricky for a lot of cars, because it's probably a good 10 Celsius above what would be at best expected to be the maximum temperature on any given day. And if we get that type of temperature, let's say before we start on Saturday afternoon at 4:30, it's going to be very interesting to see how teams deal with it, because it'll have a bearing on tyre wear and tyre degradation. Whereas, as you point out, going into the night time when the air temperature will drop down probably to as low as 20 Celsius, maybe even lower in the really dark hours of the evening. So it will be very interesting indeed to see just how the teams are going to manage tyres with a big swing between the mean high and the mean low.
Now this Mercedes could be a dark horse. Raffaele Marciello, Daniel Junqueira and Tristan Vautier in the Team ACA ASP car in the Race Scout colours, new livery for the car, and looking very, very rapid indeed. Behind the wheel of it is former F3 Euro Series champion DTM racer Daniel Junqueira, and he makes his way now up Radion up towards Les Cons.
Interesting, Michael Meadows has been taken out of the 88. It's just the 88. He is one of the other ASP cars. Danny Junqueira has been brought in. Currently, actually, just interesting, there's one of the BMW, the Brockenhorse BMWs, that has now gone, the Blancpain BMW has gone quickest overall, 2 minutes 20.290, and that is the best part of 0.4 of a second quicker than Fred McAvee did when we were there. Just see the Porsche going out of sight, and this looks like the BMW hounding it down, coming down into Pujol.
And it's Christian Cronjes at the wheel, who with all due deference has never really been a gun pole position getter. I know it's not qualifying, it's pre-qualifying, and therefore teams work through different things, but with all due deference, that's not normally a name that you anticipate to see up at the very, very pointy end.
Intro Nicky Katzberg in the Row Racing BMW, he's 5th quickest, and he's 1/6 of a second behind the quicker of the two BMW. So maybe the BMW is showing, in these conditions, very early into this session, showing good pace.
Indeed so, as we look then at Danny Junqueira doing greens, in other words, personal bests, but he would do, it's his first proper flying lap really, and then loses a little bit of ground in that middle sector. So Christian Cronjes is the fastest, ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, second quickest, Fred McAvee third, fourth is former winner Marcus Winkelhock, fifth Nick Katzberg, as John was saying, sixth is Lucas Stoltz for Black Falcon, and seventh quickest at the moment
Ross Gunn.
Is Ross Gunn, which is good to see in the Oman Racing with TF Sport Aston, Ross Aston Martin Jr. We've seen a lot of in the World Championship as Fred Mako goes to the top of the times, but it's good to have Ross Gunn in Blancpain for this weekend. Into the pit lane comes Junqueira. Fred McAvee, 2 minutes 20.276 now, as there is Norbert Haug, Volker and Schaffling behind him in the R Motorsport garage.
Yeah, but interesting, it's not a Mercedes garage, it's an Aston Martin garage. Norbert Haug, of course, famous for his many days at Mercedes-Benz, and stepped away from that a number of years ago.
Of course, Aston Martin tipped to be coming into the DTM with HWA, which has operated the Mercedes for a number of years, so link it all together. Michael Meadows, John was talking about a little while ago. Here he is, double Carrera Cup GB champion, and he's hustling on here.
Oh yeah, that was a big, he leaned on the back of the car in the compression through Eau Rouge. Again, you can see the wipers. There is little paint pockets, and they're catching, I think, not catching people out, but you can see coming up the long Camel Straight up into Lake Coombe. He needs to use the wipers to clear whatever the rainfall is up there. So it is tricky conditions, albeit the lap times. Fred McAfee still quickest overall on his fourth lap, 2 minutes 20.276, 0.14 of a second quicker than the second place BMW. But again, this corner, Roussel, we've seen McAfee get momentarily caught out. You just got to go in maybe slightly more gently than you might want to do, not lean quite so heavily on the car, to guarantee that the track actually is improving, or at least no worse than on your previous run through it.
Now we're talking about times and the order, but of course what you never know is what the teams are working on, whether they're working on the setup, whether they're cycling through drivers, whether they are going for a dummy qualifying setup. They'll all have a to-do list that they want to work through, ready for qualifying. But of course there's very little turnaround time, just under an hour really, between the end of this session and the start of qualifying, which is going to be in the traditional Blancpain format of the aggregate and the average of the aggregate of the times. But then there's an extra dimension tomorrow, which is you take those fastest 20 and we run Superpole.
Now, something that happened last weekend, we had a round of the British GT Championship at Spa. So there will be some drivers who will be doing both events.
Indeed.
So they will have gained some insight and knowledge. Of course, the track can change in a week. Look, we all change in a week, we all change in a day. But racetracks are living things. They change literally by the day, sometimes by the hour, frequently by the minute. And that's, well, right now in these conditions, what the drivers are having to contend with. You can see the back of the car, again, just swinging around as Michael Meadows decided the opportunity to come into the pit lane, as he does. Look back to the BMW, the number 36. You look and see what that is in the top. Oh, I can't find it right now. The sister car, 34, is currently second quickest still. 47 minutes remaining. Out of the top 10, 6 of them now in, 7 of them now back into the pit lane.
Yeah, 36 is the AM Cup car. Anders Buchart, Henry Valkenhorst, Ralf Overhaus and Emmanuel Vinker, the drivers. And I'm hunting for a time out of that car. 43rd, Ralf Overhaus at the wheel of it.
In turn 14 Lexus, well, it had gone 7th quickest, now been dumped because the number 5 has gone up to 6th place, and the Alexander Sim in the 99 BMW, he's up to 7th place. So literally cars every lap they come through the laps scoring are changing their role. Overhoos or House, I think it is like a Hoofhoos. If anybody knows what a Hoofhoos is, it's a very expensive self-build modular residence. Made in Germany.
There you go.
Yep.
It's amazing what you learn during pre-qualifying.
I've never mentioned it other than, Hofhaus's name on the side of the car.
Thank you, John. Now, back to the plot for a moment. Fred McAfee is pitted, so I think Manthey are going to cycle through drivers, aren't they, here? Get people through the car. Interestingly, Manthey only with 1 entry in this. They had 2 at the Nürburgring when they won the 24 hours there, and actually they needed the second car because the leading car crashed out, Romain Dumas at the wheel of it, and the second one inherited. But here it's just 1 car that the main Porsche teams are operating, not double entries. So any dramas, you're going to be in trouble.
I mean, the Nürburgring 24 is sort of a maverick of all kind of 24-hour racing, I think, because of the size of the entry, the diversity of the entry, whereas this is purely a GT3 field. The only differences are that the driving level between the pro drivers and the AMs, that's the only demarcation, I would say, across the field. Whereas Nürburgring, I mean, you can run it to Trabant if it takes your fancy.
Yes, this year we have a couple of cars in the Group National, which are not as quick as GT3, but they're a comparable type of car. There's only a couple in the entry, but just to open it up to other teams. There is the Porsche. Fred McAfee has brought it in. And already we've got a number of team managers being summoned to the race director after the session for getting the cars on the pit apron, the fast lane, before the session was live. There, over the timing line, currently 41st in the times, is the number 28 Daiko Lazarus Racing Silver Cup Lamborghini of Arno Santamato, Stefano Gattuso, Nicolas Pola and Fabrizio Crestani. Arno Santamato at the wheel of it. And in the Silver Cup, which of course is another competition introduced this year, one to look for that car operated by the Lazarus Racing squad. So as the road dries, people are getting quicker. One to watch here is going to be number 17, because Daniel Serra for WRT has done the absolute best in the first sector. The Lamborghini storms up towards Les Combes.
Another interesting entry in the AM Cup is the Garage 59 entry in the 188, and incorporated into that three-driver lineup as a fourth driver, Andrew Watts.
Yes.
And I thought, well, why would you put Andrew into that car and not in the Pro car? Well, they brought in Olivier Pla into the Pro car. Andrew is actually still a silver driver, and therefore he will enhance the 188 Garage 59 McLaren in that particular category. Four drivers sharing it, both Andrew's ability and speed, no doubt will be a major asset.
Absolutely right. And that's a car that's already had 2 out of 3 wins this year, hasn't it? One at Silverstone, one at Paul Ricard. So that McLaren has got a good track record this season.
Yeah, Alexander West currently down on 36th position, 37th, dropped down to 37th. Just the times changing as we speak on the 2:22.7 as against 2:20.2. So 2.5 seconds approximately between 37th position and current quickest overall. Daniel Cadell in the meantime has popped up once again on a run. Fastest overall in that second sector in the 88 Mercedes-Benz, up to 6th place.
Just going back to Alexander West, 4th in class at the moment, which is where they're really fighting. So track limits we haven't yet touched on, but more and more drivers are being warned about respecting track limits.
One of the places, David, where track limits traditionally are abused is coming up right now as we follow the Lamborghini through Blanchimont. It's on the exit of Blanchimont. People run very, very wide. We've seen in many years they get 4 wheels right off the racetrack, and that's even on a bone-dry circuit.
We've got a new top time as well. Dominic Baumann for SRO Motorsport in the Aston has done a 2:20.254, so he's 22 thousandths up on the rest now.
Dominic Baumann in that number 62 Aston Martin, replacing Alex Brundle, who had previously been the incumbent in that car, but they decided that bringing somebody with 24-hour experience in GT3 cars, Dominic Baumann was the candidate, successful candidate, so he's in the 62 car. And Alex, I don't know if he's going to be here or not for the weekend, but certainly I'm sure he'll be glued to his screen to watch the progress of the car that he was a part of earlier in the season. It gets underway.
Indeed so. Now also looking quick, Christian Conyers again. I'm assuming that is correct, that it is Christian behind the wheel, because he's done another absolute best in the first sector. This is Alexander Matschel in the Rinaldi Run Ferrari, number 333, which has always been a competitive car in the right hands, and this running within Pro-Am. So it is Matschel, Daniel Keilbitz, very quick driver, although was injured here. Remember last season in the test, Renat Salikov and David Perel, the drivers. So again, within Pro-Am, it could be a competitive car. There's so much to look for in this. I mean, there isn't one car you look at and say, well, that's got a weak entry. Within its class, they're all strong.
Across the field, it's just class of GT3 racing around the world. And I mean, actually, it's a director's nightmare. Who do you follow? There's so many classes and competitiveness within each class, as opposed to following the battle that might be at the very front. But referring back to Paul Ricard in the early part of June, there was nothing else to follow but the battle at the front. It was just mesmeric to see what GT3 racing ultimately can develop, and that was a memorable race as we watched the Mercedes. Why is that travelling slowly?
Alexander Matschel comes out of campus through the Cours Paul Frère and picks up the pace again now on the run up towards Blanchimont. So the track's still greasy, you can still see damp patches. Matschel with a little dab of the brakes up towards Blanchimont to settle the car. And slow car on track from turn 15. Well, that's the Mercedes that we saw a moment ago in the background being negotiated.
Yes, now, one might have thought that could have been a tyre problem. It might have been another, I don't know, electronic, hydraulic, any number of issues. Hopefully when the car gets into the pit, we might get a little view as to what was the reason for that car running slowly. As we see the first of the two Nissans here this weekend. John Walkinshaw back in behind the wheel of the number 22. First time he's been in a GT3 Blancpain event since 2016.
Yeah, he's been busy in Japan, hasn't he, in the Asian
racing in the Asian GT
Super
Championship
GT as well, yeah. So welcome back. Of course, this is the events his father had great success in, running Mazdas and Jaguars. Jordan Witt behind the wheel at 22 at the moment. The Cheshire driver blasts his way through Eau Rouge. Very brave cameraman stood there near that barrier. I stood there myself for a session, and they come pretty close to you.
Early in the season, in the WAC round, there was a number of cars had pretty big shunts. One of them was the 4GT of Harry Pinkel, I think it was. And also some of the prototypes went in there very heavily. So it is a big compression, and just the evolution, development that we're seeing across the board in motor racing in general, but GT3 in particular. These cars are fully loaded, fully committed in that compression as they rise up to get over the crest at Radio.
There is in Pro-Am a Sun Energy 1 team Mercedes. It's run by HTP Motorsport.
Yes.
The drivers are Kenny Hubble, Ben Schneider, Thomas Jaeger and Martin Conrad, and it's on its last warning for track limit abuse already.
Who's the driver?
At the moment it is Martin Conrad.
Well, has he paid his money?
Use all the track then.
Yes.
In the free practice session this morning, Romain Dumas was done twice for speeding in the pit lane, and for each of those offences he got a behavioural warning point. And
just to cut across, they showing you how to trip, just slightly offline, getting caught up.
Dumas has already got 2 behavioural warning points from Paul Ricard. So you add those 2 to the 2 he gained this morning, gives you 4. 4 gets you a grid drop. So depending on whether there are any more points in the offing for bad behaviour, is for want of a better phrase, irrespective of whether the car qualifies by time, it should be starting lower because of this potential grid drop.
So is it the car that carries the penalty or the driver? It's the car as far as I'm aware.
It is the car, yes.
So
yes.
Romain could be a good little boy, a choir boy if you like, and one of his other teammates does something which catches the attention of the steward. So
well, no, sorry, in that respect, no, it would be
Romain.
In terms of the penalty, but everybody cops it.
Yeah.
But in terms of being able to identify who is the culprit because of the driver ID system, and thanks to Jackie Groom and her team in race control monitoring who is doing what when, it is attributed to an individual driver. Yeah. So no, he wouldn't cop another point for his co-drivers.
Yeah.
But it underlines this need to work as a team, because you can compromise your co-driver.
Just what happened coming into they call it the flip-flop down at Fagnes. And he's barely offline, and the back end just drifts away. It's very dusty down there as well. So maybe it was more the dust on the track rather than the track being damp that caused the Nissan, the rear of the car, to get away. So again, this is the lap following up to the top of the Kemmel Straight, 72 Ferrari, which has been competitive all year. Should have won. Should have won on Paul Ricard.
Yes, indeed. Who did you put in the McLaren? Colm Ledegar. He's on his last warning for track limits as well. And bearing in mind that we're only 20 minutes into the session and you're on your last warning, it's not a great start, is it? So there is this SMP Racing AF Corsa run. Ferrari 72. It was quick at Ricard, but for the problems it had late in that race. It's ploughing downhill towards Pouhon, but a dust being kicked up in the background by the errant Nissan again.
Everything, of course, around the circuit is tinder dry, and a lot of dust as a consequence of this, the heat wave that Europe has been enjoying for the last 50 or so days. Even with the small amount of rain that's fallen, it's not going to really do much to moisten that dust. So anybody who does drop a wheel, a rear wheel in particular, off the track and drags some of the very dry dust back onto the track, you can see just running the curb on the exit of coming into out of campus into Courbe Paul Frere. It's a funny name for the corner, Courbe Paul Frere. Understand why Paul Frere is referenced. So up the hill into Blancpain. Ordinarily in bone dry conditions with fresh rubber, that's just about flat out for everybody, but particularly these leading drivers. 72 Ferrari, that we can see where we are on the timing and scoring.
33rd, Mikhail Alyoshin. 33rd he was, and goes over the timing line. Now let's try and catch up if we can. News from the pits. Lucas Ordonez is in the pit lane with our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Lucas, now tell me, how good does it feel to be back here at Spa 24 hours of Blancpain GT?
Well, it's the race of the year, no? The highlight of the year for us. 24 hours race in Spa is always special. It's always the place we want to succeed, to be in the podium. We've been fighting many years for it, so hopefully this year is the one for us. But the competition is really hard, and we pushing hard. We bring the new car this year, and hopefully it goes well.
That was my next question. How does the new car fare around the track compared to the old car?
Well, the new car is getting better and better, no? The Nismo did a great job in Japan developing the car, and we've been developing during the races here in Blancpain GT Series, and yeah, we're getting better and better. In Paul Ricard, we showed good pace at the end of the race, finishing in P5, and yeah, here we looking strong, but you never know until qualifying tonight. We never know where we can be. Now struggling a bit with the new tire, but yeah, lots of work to do for for the qualifying, and hopefully we can be in the top 10 tomorrow as we did last year.
68 cars on track. Now this is going to be a super hard qualifying, as you said. Who are going to be the ones to watch out for?
Yeah, well, it's 63 cars. It's crazy out there. So managing the traffic is essential in this race, and especially in qualifying. 63 cars in only a 7-kilometer track is gonna be crazy in quali, so we will try to do our best, and especially in the race, to keep out of trouble.
Thank you very much.
Piré in the look of the Donya's car.
Yes, he's getting a bit wayward, picking up the dust. So 33 minutes of this session, and a black flag to Côme Ledegar. So he was on his last warning. Black flag for Côme Ledegar.
I wonder what he doesn't understand about track limits. I mean, it's sort of pretty fundamental. Now maybe there's been a miscommunication between ship to shore or shore to ship, but you'd like to think if messages are being put up on screen warning, that would be message that would be transferred to the driver, but clearly that's not been the case, or if it has, it's not been adhered to. So a black flag for car 58, that means it must return to the pits immediately and stay there until the race director decides if it will be allowed to continue. Honda, first time we've seen the Honda,
which has got some famous
back
names,
Honda, and who's driving it? A 61-year-old Riccardo Patrese.
So there into the pit lane comes 23 Nissan. Honda was pitted as well, so there is another of the significant Porsches, the KUS Team 75 Bernhardt car, which, as John was saying early on, has got another excellent lineup of drivers in it.
Just watching the Porsche coming off La Source, because it is a rear engine, but by rear engine I mean hanging out behind the rear wheels, not like the version that's run in WEC where the engine is ahead of the rear wheels, basically directly behind the driver, but it does get that little bit of additional bite from traction off the low-speed corners, and that was pretty evident to me as it made its way from the source down the hill through Eau Rouge, and then almost before you can say it, he's come to the end of Camel Straight, and then you go into the sequence of corners at Les Combes. The onboard just gives you an indicator. Oh, and what was that untidy bit of driving that looked like was, I'm not sure that was the car that Matt Griffin might be in, along with Duncan Cameron, but somebody got off track, go down into Carousel. Tricky conditions, David, because they're having to come off the throttle quite a lot before they go through Speaker's Corner, just to be certain that there isn't additional damp, the most typical part of that corner.
And 117 at the moment you're riding with is in the hands of El Bamba, winner of course, and Timo Bernhardt's team determined to try and put one over on Manthey here, that rather ran away at the Nürburgring and made the Bernhardt car look a bit pedestrian. But here they're aiming to fight back, and we understand that car number 90 has stopped at the first corner. So 90 Mercedes, the Jack Manchester, Jules Kowiak, Fabian Schiller, Nico Bastian car. It was Nico Bastian, remember, who started the session in that car, and it's Jack Manchester at the wheel. Now turn 1 is La Source, isn't it?
Turn 1 is La Source. At least it's convenient to the pits, but of course there's no entry to the pits other than at the end of a race where they open up a filter to bring the cars back in rather than doing another long lap. Interesting that the Porsche coming up the hill wasn't able to do very much with the Lamborghini in terms of straight line speed, so El Bamba has backed out of it. Now going to have another go and maybe try and, well, you can see the gap that is between the two cars, probably the best part of 100 meters or so. The run down the hill from the source will be probably pretty even Stevens. It will be who will be committed up through Eau Rouge over the top of the hill. Let's look again and see, was that
That was at Les Cornes, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I think that was, I'm not sure it was the Duncan Cameron. But it was indeed, it was. I'm sure that's the Matt Griffin, Duncan Cameron Ferrari that somehow or other found itself. Well, look, he got pinched big time, and that's why all of a sudden Earl Bamber had to take a little bit of avoiding action as they run down the hill. And there's a secondary view of it. That's the head-on view, looking up from Bruxelles, and the Ferrari sort of got really badly pinched in the exit coming through Les Cornes.
Now, of course, if we've got this car stationary at La Source, and we might get a glimpse in a moment, because this is the run up to the hairpin, it could be a yellow flag zone. We're not hearing about yellow flags, so maybe number 90 has been pushed far enough out of the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of runoff either entering into La Source or way to the left. So we still have got green flags, so the car may have been removed pretty quickly to safety. Brian Lazender in this 84 Mercedes second quickest, 911. Roman Dumas third quickest, and they're all covered by 22 hundredths of a second. Competitive stuff.
Is it ever? Where does the magic second take us to at the moment?
Takes us all the way down to
29th.
30th place.
Yeah, the top 29 all covered by a second.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it? There is 114, the Paul Ricard winning car, and out of Les Cornes comes the Lexus then. This is the sister car. It's the same type of car that won, but this is the sister. 114 battles on. Now, where you can find that in the times at the moment, it is 27th, Norbert Siedler. Emil Frey Racing we used to get very excited about with the Jaguar, but it's great to see not only the Lexus having had a win, but the team itself making such strides forward, from going from the back of the grid with an unreliable car to midfield to class wins to being able to take a new project and win with it. I think that was a hugely popular result at Ricard.
So it was at Paul Ricard that I suppose the Lexus really came to life for the first time. We knew the potential was there, but everything about Paul Ricard worked favourably, as they would expect here at Spa. The same kind of open circuit, more flowing corners, whereas a Misano, which is a sprint event, which is more stop-start, and it's more about nimbleness, which maybe the Audis of the day displayed. So looking to see what the Lexus is going to achieve here. Currently fastest of the two is the Christian Clean car down in 19th position. It's all somewhat irrelevant. Interesting, the biggest of the Lamborghinis is the 63 Lamborghini, which is normally the car we see Christian Engelhardt and Marco Bortolotti, but Andrea Caldarelli, fresh back from a holiday, I gather, is in that car.
So, feeling pretty chipper, and now sitting about business in the Lamborghini. Yeah, but as you say, 9th fastest, but equally, it's only pre-qualifying. When we get to the serious business of not really qualifying necessarily, but Super Pole tomorrow evening, which will be live. That's going to be fascinating.
That's getting a bit unnecessary. Little minor contact between the Mercedes, the Aston Martin and the Lexus.
The Bentleys are a little bit frustrating at the moment, aren't they? Number 7 just went through shot 30th, and 44th is where you find number 8. So again, I know it's only pre-qualifying, but the Bentleys have got to find a bit of time. There's another potential winning car from WRT. Nico Muller, René Rast and Robin Frins. I mean, that is as good a lineup as you'll find.
I mean, slightly revised colours on these WRT Audis. The number 2 car, if you look down the list of cars, you'd have to say, well, put the pin on that number 2 car. Not only has it got pace, but the fact that WRT are so well disciplined and they understand how 24-hour races run and what you've got to do. And while this will be a 24-hour sprint, you want to run or sprint as slowly as you possibly can rather than at your maximum capacity, because it's a long way, and particularly those long dark hours of night time can be really lonely, believe it or not, around Spa. 7 kilometers, 19 corners, a bit of soft. So no, it could be a very long, lonely lap. And of course, we've seen in the past where there has been a major player as the number 1 Audi prepares to go on a flying lap. Dries van Thor, Alex Riberas, Christopher Mies, Alex Riberas behind the wheel. So curious to see just what this lap for the number 1 Audi, which has seriously got to be a contender for pole position. But again, just the back of the car, just on the initial throttle application, stepped out, He checked it, then stepped out again a second time. The Aston Martin running very slowly. Is that looking for an in to the pit lane, which is not there other than for cars filtering in at the end of a session, but not going particularly quickly.
There you see the Porsche from the so-called national group for the mono-brand cars, Karlsruhe One Make Championship. So that effectively is a Porsche Cup car, which looks quite pedestrian against the full-blown GT3 machinery.
Well, unquestionably it is. I mean, what a quick track day car that would be.
Yeah.
And within its own championship, super racing. But when you see it against a full-blown, fully developed Blancpain GT Sprinter or Endurance car, looks like it's from, well,
different world.
A national championship, which is what it's come from.
You've got Lamborghinis from similar situations, Super Trofeo cars in the entry. So number one then, we're looking at, as we were mentioning, Alex Riberas behind the wheel. This car 11th fastest. Now, WRT lacks for nothing in terms of drivers. It lacks for nothing in terms of the brains trust. Vincent Voss, Thierry Tassin, 4 times a winner, Pierre Dieudonné a winner here. And then you look at the drivers and you look at the experience. I mean, if this is a team that you think, yeah, put your money on WRT, this has got to be a winning team.
And I would extend it further. Look at the people that they use in the pit lane for the wheel refueling, all those changes. That is so well rehearsed and practiced and drummed in. So it would be, depending where the car is in out-and-out pace, they know that when it comes to getting their pit stops, that they will be on the precise amount of time that they're permitted, the minimum and maximum amount of times for pit stops.
One car that has just come into the pit lane, or in the last few moments into the pit lane, is number 44, the Straka Racing Mercedes. It has been brought in by Rubens Barrichello, and he has just been reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane.
Well, somebody's got to be quick in the pit lane. I mean, I'm delighted to see Rubens Barrichello back racing in Europe. He's been racing in Brazil. He was actually unwell earlier this year and quite a serious situation medically to be dealt with. But here he is racing in Spa 24. 2 ex-legends from the background of Formula One, Rubens Barrichello, Riccardo Patrese, both having, I think in both cases, their debuts in Spa 24.
I'm pretty sure you're right in the context of Rubens Barrichello, certainly. There's a former winner, Marcus Winkelhock, driving for the Santalok Junior team.
Quickest overall.
He did so, 2:19.939. And having done that, heads for the pit lane. So there's your fastest car. Vinky, Marcus Winkelhock down the pit road. Winner here, winner of the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Led his first of the Grand Prix, didn't he, in the Spiker? Which was what now? 11 years ago. And Marvin Kirchhoffer's Aston Martin is second, and third at the moment is Renger van der Zande for the team Man Filter, Mercedes AMG squad.
Just got a quick look at Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley. Sort of, you noted, David, that they're not really showing an awful lot of pace. The number 7 currently is 31st, and the number 8 45th. So Maxime Soulet's best lap, well, that number 8 car's best lap was 2 minutes 22.9, 3 seconds off what is currently provisional quickest lap, but thundering up the hill, up the Camel Straight. But again, 2 cars side by side looking for track position, and all that's going to do is frustrate Maxime Soulet, because they'll be focused on what they're trying to do, may be aware of the Bentley coming up behind them very quickly. Now Maxime Soulet will dive down the inside. Hopefully the Lamborghini will concede. Yes, it has. Oh no, it hasn't. Oh no, it hasn't, but maybe the message has come through. Still, this is where you get the difference between the professional drivers and the ones that are the amateurs, let's put it that way. So that's time lost for the number 8 Bentley.
All of this, by the way, on Maxime Soulet's birthday. He is 35 today. Happy birthday, Maxime Soulet. Comes through Pool, and let's hope that a better present than 46th can be earned by the end of the session. Maxime Soulet then up towards the pith path now.
He will have lost probably the best part of a second, having to deal with the Lamborghini, and that, as we've heard from some of the drivers, is the issue. It's dealing with traffic, and some drivers manage it, some never seem to get clear laps or find the part of the racetrack that they need to be clear when they want it to be clear.
There's another black flag going out to Louis Machiels, 53 Ferrari. If you are a historian of the Spa 24 Hours, you might remember the black flag incident for Louis Machiels in the race a good few years ago, in the days when Eduardo Freitas was the race director, and repeatedly a black and orange flag was shown, then a black flag to bring him in, and Machiel's defence was that the radio wasn't working. The team ever more animated to try and get him in. In the end, the car was brought into the pits and the race director stopped him. That was the end of it, but Louis Machiel's being black flagged for track limit abuse at the moment, as down the pit lane for his birthday cake, I assume, comes Maxime Soulet.
Yeah, I think he realised that getting caught behind the Lamborghini on a lap, and there was nothing to be gained from staying out. Although he's got information, he knows where the car is, as does Alex Buncombe in the 23 Nissan. He's now got the Nissan into the top 15 and 14th position on a 2 minutes 20.6. So currently that is just under 3/4 of a second slower than the quintuplets. There's now Christopher Haase behind the wheel of the 25 Audi, which is the car that we saw Marcus Winkelhock just momentarily ago. That's the Sanderlock Racing Audi team car. So again, a quasi works Audi. Again, another very strong driver lineup. 84 Mercedes, the man filter. Next is Berenger van der Zender, brings it back into the pit lane. Strong run from the 84. At least it's an identifiable looking Mercedes. As one of the first time we've seen a McLaren. One of the two garage 59 McLarens.
And that's 58, which means that it's the Comme Ledegar Olivier Pla Ben Barnicoat car, which was black flagged, of course, a little while ago. And therefore, if it's been allowed out, it should have had a driver change, and it has, and Olivier Pla has taken it over.
Yeah, Olivier Pla essentially taking over from, I think, Andrew Watson, and that was, you know, a strategic move by Garage 59 to put Andrew into the number 59 McLaren to strengthen that in its the category. So let's see what Olivier Pla, certainly somebody who's got pretty good credentials.
Absolutely right, yes. And great speed, and has done many a mile around here as well. So let's see how he fares this weekend, because this has never been a very kind race to McLaren.
Just looking down, 117.
Lawrence Van Thor.
Yeah.
Up to second fastest.
Yeah. Good to see. Still a tenth and a half away from the time Marcus Winkelhock set, but that's you're looking forward to seeing Lawrence Van Thor in a Porsche competing against his younger brother Dries Van Thor in the WRT Audi. There will be undoubtedly split loyalties in the Van Thor family in that one.
Yes. Yes, you've got the Inter-Nissan contest between the brothers, and also this contest between the individual Porsche teams, because Timo Bernhardt's squad, like I said early on, determined to get one over on Manthey this weekend, if possible. And right now, Lawrence Van Thor on home ground as well. He's up there second fastest. The magic second is only now taking us across the top 22 cars for now.
Car 66, attempt to racing, must respect track limits at turn 17. That's, so I don't know where they got Blancpain 17 or not, because it basically is 18 and 19, so just before. 17 is Blancpain, yeah. So that's what this is. We're seeing the McLaren just having exited Blancpain. So the tradition is to let the car run very wide and maybe pick up a little bit of extra cornering speed. Let's see what Olivier Pla can deliver for Garage 59. 2:22. That's not really at the races. That's down. Where is it?
It's 15th overall.
Yeah, the car is 15 over. That
Yeah.
Olivier Pla's time is 1.5 seconds down.
A 2:22.1, which is what he has just done, would put it 41st.
40th, yeah.
So nothing to get excited about, you're quite right. 43 there, Maxi Book, Alvaro Parent, Maxi Goetz, yet another potential winner.
Pick it. Go with it, David.
Put your money down, yeah.
44. Pick it.
Barrichello, Vitoris, Felipe Fraga.
No, it's great to see Rubens, and having raced, you know, Brazilian, they call them stock cars, but it's their form of touring cars. So familiar with an enclosed cockpit, familiar with a front engine or mid-engine concept. As with the Nissan, well, one of the two Nissans again sitting just at the exit of La Source. Don't know quite why. That looks a good run up through Eau Rouge and Blancpain of the Eau Rouge, and so let's see the first split time for Ruben Barrichello on the long Kemmel straight. Personal best 40.222, and well, best so far is from Tom Blomqvist in the 39.711. So that looks pretty good. Rubens, where are you going, my friend? Pretty well off the track, coming out of Lake Kuhn. Rushes down into Bruxelles, keeps the car pretty much hugging the curb all the way around, gets on the throttle, gets good drive out of Bruxelles, so through Speaker's Corner. Looking at what Barrichello is doing here, you'd think he might have been in a Mercedes AMG GT3 for more than just the time he's been behind the wheel.
Yes. Just going back to Formula One drivers for a moment, I'm indebted to Jamie O'Leary, who's listening to us, looking after Honda's PR activity, who would like to point out that you are absolutely right, as ever, John. It is Riccardo Patresi's Spa 24-hour debut, but he did win the 1985 Spa 1,000 kilometres driving a Lancia with Mauro Baldi and Bob Wallach, and he was also fourth in that race in his own car with Alessandro Nannini. Best result here in a Grand Prix, third in 1992 in the Williams Honda days. So many years after great success here in a 1,000-kilometre Group C race, he's back in a different car altogether.
Well, let me just put this into perspective, because all those facts are undoubtedly factual. But there was an event in Monte Carlo way back in May, which is the historic whatever event it's called.
Yes.
And there was a special parade of historic Formula One cars. And I have to say, historic Formula One drivers, of which I was a part, and so was Riccardo. So I put him into that context as being a driver of the 80s and the 90s, and up until, I don't know when Riccardo's last Grand Prix was. Must have been
Where did he go after Williams?
Benetton or Williams. Anyway, would have been certainly somewhere in the 90s. And he's taken his interest currently, or presently, is in horses.
Is it?
It's for the four-legged variety of horse I'm talking about.
1993 in Benetton, that was the end of the F1 career. But
that was when Flavia was kind of swinging the lead a bit as the race director.
Yeah. He's great and he wants to even race at this level, because without being disrespectful, it can't be easy to get back into a car like this up against these gun drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not in a race car on a regular basis, your whole body, and by that I mean your vision, your sense of balance, all the things you take for granted when you're an active racing driver, you've got to revisit them. You've got to get them back up and get them accustomed to the kind of experiences and feelings that will be being fed through your feet, your hands, your body and the seat. And that's not something that just comes back in a breath. It takes a little bit of time, and especially at the level of competition that we're seeing. But of course, with Honda coming with the hybrid NSX, I mean, what an exciting inclusion to have here in Spa. The first time I think we've seen this car race in Europe, but certainly a version of which is raced in the various Japanese championships. But in GT3, certainly I think that's the first time I've seen it this year in Europe.
It was launched, wasn't it, at this event last year, and it is great that Honda is here with a stellar cast, because you've got, we've been talking about Riccardo Patrese, but also the name of Loic Depailler, no mean driver himself, but now magazine editor, part of that crew as well, and going to be one to watch over the course of the race. As you look at number 1 Audi for the moment, which is Alex Riberas, who has done a personal best in the first sector on this lap. But again, how much do you read into this? Because it's not all about the times. There's traffic to factor in as well, but also Riberas has been behind the wheel for a long time. It makes you think they're giving him the opportunity to get used to the car at the circuit.
Marcel Fassler, in one of the other Audis in the race, currently down in 12th place, but he's just recorded fastest first sector time overall, but the lap time didn't reflect that. There's only a 2:24. Now we've seen Riberas fastest sector, second sector. So Alex Riberas, as you pointed out, David, that thumbs up clearly indicated it's a quick middle sector, but traffic ahead. And will that mean a compromise coming into Blanchimont? You don't want to get too close to the car you're following, because that'll take some of the aero away. Now the lights flashing. Good cooperation amongst the Audi drivers, letting the much quicker Riberas get through. Lamborghini directly ahead of him. That's not going to have too much effect, other than it's a distraction. But Alex Riberas goes up to complete a lap, and let's see where he is. Up from 11th to fastest overall.
Despite, as you say, losing a bit of ground and a bit of time in that last sector, so good job by Riberas.
Yes, and that was definitely, maybe you could count a 10th or 2/10. Riccardo! Yeah. He looked a lot fitter than that in Monte Carlo, and he only had to drive an historic car.
It's great to have him back. It really is. Riccardo Patrese, Loic Depailler, Esteban Guerrieri and Bertrand Baguette, the 4 drivers of that car. and Honda grabbing attention, and there it is, and it's a great looking car.
It not only looks great, that car looks quick. You know, make no mistake, when you've been a retired racing driver or whatever it is, then you make a comeback into such a competitive championship as we're saying here at Spa. This is a quick car. Okay, it's not looking maybe at this phase as an overall victory car. It's a lot about learning, I suspect. But nonetheless, Bertrand Baguette, he will rag the Honda. It looks really impressive. The car looks poised. Looks like it's a driver-friendly car. Some cars you can look at and you can think those are knife-edge cars, or that one's a little bit on the soft side. This looks very racy indeed.
Does it ever? And Bertrand Baguette is no slouch, as we've seen in single-seaters as well as in GT cars. So Bertie Breadroll, Bertrand Baguette, one to watch over his stint in this session. He's not yet doing personal best in the sectors, but he has now. Middle sector, this is a quick one for the car. So now he's starting to get himself dialed in. He's not been in it for long. But up front, it's looking pretty good for Audi. The top 2 places are held by Audi thus far, and we've got now only 10 minutes just under of the session to go, 8.5 on the clock, and then they've got just under an hour. Quick turnaround before we're into the 4 parts of qualifying.
Yes, I'm going to be very interested to see what Bertrand Baguette will deliver for Honda with this lap. It looked a competitive lap. Whether it makes it into the top 20 or not, it's going to be, well, 41st, slightly outside. And Ricciardo's face hasn't changed since we saw him about 5 minutes ago.
Takes a big deep breath, is into the pit lane, number 44. This is the Barrichello, Felipe Fraga, Christian Vitoris Mercedes, run by Straka Racing.
If you looked at the Honda in isolation, you'd have sworn that was a lap time that was going to be within the top 10, maybe top 15. And it's currently, it's just 2 seconds. You can't tell just watching the isolation as Rubens helps with driver change. Oh, that's it, good idea, fit the net. And Rubinho, little Rubens. First met him when he came to Jordan in 1993, 2-3, somewhere around that time. And what a fantastic career he has enjoyed. Still looks, sharp.
Yeah, on his toes.
Because he's racing. Yeah, that's simply the reason why. That's the difference. Riccardo Patrese is an older person than Rubens is, but you can see in Rubens' body language he's race tuned.
We've had more quick times. Jamie Green, DTM start, 9th, and 4th, Dirk Werner in the 911 Manthey Porsche. You're on board now with Timo Bernhardt in the number 117 Porsche. The car, remember, from the KUS Team 75 Bernhardt squad.
Big commitment, almost flat through Eau Rouge, up over Radio. So wait and see what this will result in the first sector. Up the Camel Straight, you think it's down, David, thumbs down. 40.146.
Slower than he was.
The best, well, that car's best, that's the map, don't be wrong.
It's a white time to signify he's been through the sector, so it's not a green, not a purple. It's down from him. And now he's got traffic. That's the 53 Ferrari up the road. 6 minutes of this session to go.
And he's going to be held by the Ferrari as they go through Speaker's Corner as well. So this lap will be, in effect, a wasted lap. The Ferrari has got good straight line speed coming down into Pujol, and Timo Bernhardt isn't able to get alongside under brakes. He has just got to be patient. So was that an indicator saying I'm going to stay on the left-hand side? I think it is. So that will let the Porsche go up into the Fania, the flip-flop as they call it. If you're on a fast lap in respect of what you're doing and you've got a quicker car coming behind you, you've always got to make the decision: do you concede that lap, or you try and do the best you can and let the quicker car make its own way around you?
So this lap for Bernhardt, down in Sector 1 and down in Sector 2, but you touched on a point, John, which is the traffic, and of course, pretty much from what we had in the past, lap 4, lap 5, get used to it, because this is a race where traffic is a constant factor.
Absolutely. But one man who's dealing with that traffic very well, Marco Bortolotti in the 63 Lamborghini, popped up into 5th place overall, 0.3 seconds slower than Alex Ribeiras. The quickest car still number 1 Audi. Timo Bernhard comes across the line. That was 2:24.
Through La Source goes the Porsche. We've been talking about Rubens Barrichello and the Mercedes. He's bailed out of the car and he's with Dakota.
Welcome to Blancpain, first of all. How's it all going today?
It's actually quite good. I mean, we had some rain just before we went out, and so it was, we didn't know what to expect, but I just set my fastest lap on the car, which makes me happy. I don't know how competitive we are still compared to people, but we're giving everything, so the three of us is really happy.
Are you still trying to work out your theoretical times?
I've actually visited the green stuff a little bit on my fastest lap, so I have something still to conquer there. But I'm okay. I mean, for only my 3rd day in the car, the ABS brakes are quite funny. They need more working, but I guess 24 hours for me, I will eventually learn how what is asking for me.
And is there going to be another challenge for you driving in the nighttime?
It will. I think tonight we're gonna see that already, but I hope my eyes can cope with.
We love having you here. Thank you very much.
He did race at Le Mans last year, so he is used to nighttime driving. But it's interesting that he makes that point about still learning about a GT3 car and how to get the best out of it and how to adapt. And you think, well, he's a Grand Prix driver, he can just leap into anything. But no, these are a nuanced car.
Well, I think it's more aligned to what he's racing in Brazil. Remember, these cars are 1,000 kilograms plus. They don't have the aero of, let's say, the Le Mans car, the prototype he might have raced a year ago. Certainly nothing compared to the single-seaters he would have raced. And braking is a big part of the aerodynamics in a GT3 car. So if you've got maybe 1,000 or whatever kilograms of downforce compared to maybe 4,000 of a prototype, that's a big difference, and you notice it particularly in braking.
Coming out of Lincoln 63, Mirko Bortolotti. Maxime Martin has done a personal best in the first sector. He's currently 6th. Number 62, Aston Martin, Maxime Martin. Way up the curb there goes the Lexus in the background. We are having Bortolotti being warned about track limits as well at Blanchimont, which is the commonplace in this session. And there is now less than a lap time left in the session. So Bortolotti will get one more out of this, but the flag will come out on that last lap.
Down into Pouhon. It's a great corner. For me, I think I've said this last year, or maybe the year before, and the year before. I think it's the most fulfilling corner. Everybody looks at Eau Rouge and Radio, but that's sort of become a bit of a circus act.
Red flag.
Red flag, indeed.
Somebody goes wide, but a red flag, it won't be restarted this session because we've got less than 2 minutes and it's pre-qualified, so the clock carries on ticking anyway.
Is that something on the track, or has there been an incident that
Good question.
we have yet to pick up on?
The session will not resume, confirmation. And we'll wait and see who it is and where it is that's caused this stoppage. Alain Adon, the race director, at his home circuit. And there's the answer, number 18 has ground to a halt. And that's coming towards the bus stop, isn't it?
I think
it's had a moment out of Blanchimont.
Well, a strange way to stop there. I mean, Juan Perez. So the car is in a hazardous position, and the sensible thing to do is just red flag it with only a minute and a bit left. So the session is not going to resume, and that will allow the marshals to get to it and return it safely to the pits. Now, whether that's the result of running wide coming out of Blanchimont, we don't know, but it looks as if whatever it is, the car isn't moving for whatever. There's no apparent sign of damage. There's no marks on the track that would indicate that it might have had an incident coming out of Blanchimont. Don't know.
Good spot that. So yes, you're right. There's no witness mark there, is it? So if it's a mechanical problem, which might be why it's ground to a halt, and the session will not be resumed. So we'd lost a minute or so of that, and that brings to an end then pre-qualifying. But the qualifying session is going to be coming up in not too much further time, because the Q1 goes live at 10 minutes to 9 local time. Here's the answer to the Lamborghini. Oh, it was definitely a mechanical look, because it's limping coming out of Blanchimont and just grinds to a halt. So JC Perez, Juan Perez, stops the car.
Let's have a stick the tail on the donkey. Is it out of fuel?
That's a thought. That's a thought. Try it, see how far you can go on a limited amount. It's all useful data, isn't it?
Well, I mean, teams sometimes want to work that out, but
yeah,
maybe
true.
That's a little bit of a simplistic proposition.
No,
but
like
it's not unrealistic either.
I'll go along with that. So it is Alex Riberas that is the fastest, 2 minutes 19.758. Second is number 25, Marcus Winkelhock, did the time, 2 minutes 19.939. And third is Timo Bernhardt, 2 minutes 20.107. And fourth is 9:11. It was a Fred Makovici time, wasn't it? That was 2:20.116. So it's been a very busy session. That Mann-Filter Mercedes is in for a bit of bad news in a minute because it's not going out for another hour or so. But we've got the time now at 7:15 local time, and the qualifying session due to go live on the original timetable at 20:50. But we've had a bit of shuffling of the timetable after an incident earlier on in the day which brought some barrier damage after the number 6 Black Falcon Mercedes went off the road in free practice. This, the top dozen at the end of pre-qualifying, and it's Audi 1-2, Porsche 3-4, Lamborghini 5, Aston Martin 6. So it's been an interesting session, that is for sure. And as you cycle through, just look at the names, just look at the brands that are represented. We've been talking with justification about this being a who's who of international GT racing, but just look how competitive it is. Look at the gaps between the cars. You're looking at hundreds, you're looking at thousands of seconds. This is going to be another very tight, flat-out blast for 24 hours. And even the cars that have been competitive in earlier rounds have got some work to do in this. Rubens Barrichello's car 36th. Not a great session for Bentley. I'm sure there's more to come, in fairness, as we get to qualifying coming up later. But so much going on in that session. And the respective classes, if you have a look, the fastest in Pro-Am was number 49, that being the Ram Racing Darren Burke, Salah Yolok, Ewan Hankey, Felix Rosenqvist run Mercedes. In the Silver Cup, 12 was quickest there, of Ling Kang, Alex Frasinetti, Roman Monti and Andrea Rizzoli. The Am Cup, 991 Porsche topped the times, that being Jürgen Hering, Edward Lewis Browner, Wolfgang Triller and Alfred Renauer, and of course overall Alex Riberas with that 2 minutes 19.758 in the car that he shares with Dries Van Toor and Christopher Mies. 62 cars seen, and let's hear in the pit lane from Dries Van Toor. Must be very pleased that his car tops the times at the end of pre-qualifying.
Dries, fastest in the pre-qualifying section. It's looking pretty good for you here.
It's still a long way to go. I mean, it's only pre-qualifying, but you know, it's always nice to start it off like this. You know, the car's feeling well. You know, the Audi has a good history here, so the car has been proven that it's a favorite track. So yeah, I mean, we still, like I said, it's still early days. We still have a lot of work to do. Qualifying is coming up tonight, so then we can see who has got what is in them to show their pace. So you know, it will be exciting because you know, pre-qualifying is, we just look at it as a free practice session. So it will be interesting to see who will be there in quali and who not.
Being a Belgian, is this number one on your bucket list to win?
Yeah, of course, and also because my brother won it, so I mean, we have to be the same. We have to be a tie, and maybe a bit better even. So yeah, it's always nice to win it as a Belgian. It's a home race for me, so I have a lot of Belgian people here. So it's always nice to win a race, and especially this race. You know, it's one of the biggest races in GT, so it's always nice to win a race like this.
Good luck for qualifying.
And qualifying, just to correct what I said, although it was initially published at 20:50, 10 minutes past 8 local time. So in 50 minutes time, qualifying will get underway. So the teams don't have a lot of time to work on the cars before we get ready for the qualifying session. Well, it's been a lively pre-qualifying period, and qualifying will be getting underway in the usual 4 parts. So each driver does a stint. That'll be coming up in about, as I say, 50 minutes or so's time. And we look forward to that. It'll be covered, of course, live, and that will be followed by night practice. So all of that still to come this evening as the teams now get the cars into the garages and start any work that needs doing. And for some, it might be quite a bit. So let's have a quick look back onto the highlights of the pre-qualifying session, which began early doors with rather sideways Mercedes. This was Nico Bastien on a circuit that was still quite greasy, really pressing on. Number 911 had Fred Makovici at the wheel of it for the start of the session. Pit lane was busy. They're at the very far end of the endurance pits, in other words, pit out of the combined pit lane. And then as the session cycle through. Everybody doing driver changes, getting drivers used to the circuit. Timo Bernhardt was hard at work in the Porsche, seeing all sorts of drama going on ahead of him. Just darting around the back of the AF Corsa Ferrari. 991, another car to keep an eye to, the Renault Porsche. And 25 briefly set the top time. Marcus Winkelhock at the wheel. That car with Winkelhock at the wheel having gone fastest, eventually pitting. Alex Riveras going quicker right at the very end. Timo Bernhardt hustled his way through the traffic, but it was such a busy circuit, getting an improved lap time in was far from easy. This, the fastest car, come the end of the session, and it was Alex Riveras at the wheel, so doing the lion's share of the driving. In fact, it's not a circuit he would have done that much mileage around. Porsche Super Cup, yes, but nothing else really. So Riveras getting the bulk of the track time and establishing a very good run indeed to go quickest. Rubens Barrichello in the Stracker Racing Mercedes, going through the driver changes and still learning about this type of race car, rather different from the touring car that he races in Brazil. Bertrand Baguette at the wheel of the Honda, looking impressive. He did a very quick lap time in the car, certainly proving its potential. So Bertrand Baguette, one to watch, but the session stopped early with Juan Perez in the Lamborghini grinding to a halt trackside. So we are 50 minutes away from qualifying getting underway. We look forward to your company for that as we see who the guns are going to be for the grid for the total 24 hours of Spa. For now, from John Watson and David Addison, bye for now.